recording, because I've got a feeling it said.
It does say that you are recording.
Good. Just with it saying it stopped recording before. So yeah, so hopefully you've got your 8 elements of freedom and the laying the foundation tracker, so that you can really use that to good effect as you work through these tips in the next 7 days. And maybe you need to do it for a little bit longer, because anything that we do, we need to do a repetition. So it's repetition which forms a habit. And the longer that we do it for, the longer, or the longer it will last. So the more likely you're going to see the results from what you're doing. So if we just do something for a week, you might feel good for that week, and then it will fall off again. So it's about getting into a regular habit. So hopefully you're not going to need the tracker to keep you on track forever, but you might need it for a couple of weeks. So I would just maybe print off another couple of copies and see where you get to with it. So that's your workbox. So then, with regards to myself, anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Ruth Pansy. I opened a health clinic called Inner Health Clinic in 2011. And this was purely down to me leaving a stressful job, making some significant changes in my life. I decided after a run of ill health, which I'll come on to completely change my life, and went down the road of becoming a nutritional therapist, which I embarked on in 2010. And I trained then as a chronic hydrotherapist because I wanted to specialize in the gut, because I had so many issues myself. So I actually started the clinic sooner than I'd anticipated. I resigned from my job, and my life took an extremely positive turn, which I'm so grateful for, to be here sat talking with you guys today. And then once I qualified in nutrition therapy, a couple of years later, I went on and started studying to become a wellbeing coach, and then a crystal effect practitioner. And this was all the work around helping people through chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. But what I did find was a lot of these clients who I was working with also had huge amounts of gut issues. So there's a real correlation between gut problems and energy issues as well. So really working with the physical in terms of chronic hydrotherapy, nutrition therapy, and then working on the emotional aspects of IBS, or it might not even be diagnosed IBS, but any kind of gut issue. There's, generally speaking, an underlying emotional element, not always, but there can be. So it's key to be able to tap into that and to make those necessary changes to our whole lives, basically. And then I also then went on to do yoga therapy in the same year. So just really bringing and cementing everything together, because yoga have been so beneficial to me in helping reduce my stress levels. And when we reduce our stress levels, we're in more rest and digest, and therefore the gut works so much better. So if anybody hasn't yet taken up yoga and would like to have a chat about it, by all means, happy to do that. And then my registration, so we've got BANT, which is the British Association of Nutritional Therapists, and then I'm also registered with RICTAT, which is the International Chronic Hydrotherapy Association, and then the CNHC, which is the Complementary Natural Healthcare Council. So for anybody who doesn't know me, that's me in a nutshell. And then in terms of my history and the reason why I am sat here talking to you today on this masterclass is because I suffered with gut issues for so long it's unbearable to even think about, but I have to be grateful that I did go through that, because I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing the job that I'm so passionate about if I hadn't gone through all those issues, you know, being in and out of hospital, tried every pill and potion. Even when I went on to see more natural healthcare practitioners, I never really got a resolve, because there wasn't really a program out there such as the one that I've devised, which really looks at the root cause and looks at the person as a complete whole and just tries to understand what's going on and has that structure in place where there is a lot of reviews in place to make sure that everything's going in the right direction. So that was basically my journey. My symptoms ranged from a horrific bloating and constipation, like moving my bowel maybe once a week, to sometimes as worse as it could be 3 weeks, and other symptoms such as food reactions. So it'd be interesting to know if anyone wants to pop in the chat, you know, what their experiences are. Are you reacting to food like I was? My diet became so limited in the respect to what I could actually eat. It was quite distressing because I did actually like going out to eat. And then eating at the weekends when I would normally be looking forward to doing this just became stressful, for want of a better word, completely stressful. So I want people to be able to enjoy eating out and to be able to eat a wide variety of food and not to have that restriction such as I did. So what is IBS? So it's basically a syndrome, and I want you to know that if you're on here and you haven't had a diagnosis of IBS, then that isn't an issue. Also, if you're listening to the recording, it's really more about symptoms related to the gut. And IBS is literally a collection of symptoms, and people will have different types of symptoms. Some people will have all the ones that apparently the doctors need in order to give a diagnosis of IBS. So we've got recurrent abdominal pain or discomfort, constipation, diarrhea, or could be a mixture of the two, bloating, bowel urgency, flatulence and burping. But there's also so many other symptoms that come hand in hand with IBS, or if you are experiencing gut problems, and they're not always you know, gastrointestinal. So for me, I had skin rashes, I had obviously like the fatigue that we talked about, I had brain fog, poor concentration, headaches as well. So there's so many other types of symptoms that can come when the gut isn't working properly, because at the end of the day, the gut is our feeding station where we get all our nutrients. So if we're maldigested for any particular reason, because we're not digesting our food as we should be and we're malnourished, then we're going to be deficient in certain vitamins and minerals, and they're crucial, you know, to make the whole body work. So red flags. So I just want to really point out things that we should not get reviewed. So if you have any of these, then it is important that you do go to your GP and have them do some tests to make sure that there is nothing more sinister underlying. So black, dark, tar-like stools is crucial to get investigated. So not to be confused with just dark stools, which we can have, say, if we've had a lot of caffeine or ate a lot of greens, or maybe had a lot of red wine or beetroot, that can cause the stool to go dark as well, or charcoal tablets, obviously. It's this stickiness, it is a tar-like, and the tar bit is like occult blood. So it's blood higher up in the system and could potentially be related to bowel cancer. So that one does definitely need further investigation, as does blood in stool. Now, blood in stool, generally speaking, isn't as serious, but we do want to make sure that we understand where the blood is coming from. So is it because we've started with an irritable bowel disease like colitis or Crohn's, or could it be that we're experiencing some internal hemorrhoids which are bleeding? So again, really important, because if it is the start of an irritable bowel disease, then the sooner we catch it, the sooner we do the repair, and the sooner that you can recover and heal from that. And then also weight loss for an unknown reason, and this isn't always you know, a huge red flag. I basically did, I'm just going to admit one more person, I did have a lot of weight loss at one point, which I was really concerned with, but when I look back now, it was due to adrenal fatigue, due to being under a chronic amount of stress. So that can also be, but obviously don't be concerned about maybe if we all go on now until oh, the noise has gone. Okay, so Also, if you have anemia or your symptoms started after the age of 50, that's another key one. Or you have a history of a familial history of bowel cancer or ovarian cancer. And then again, is this sudden change in your symptoms that also would want or warrant further investigation. So by all means, please, look out for these ones and always get investigated if you experience any of those. So most people with IBS find themselves with pain and unpredictable symptoms. If you want to pop in the chat if this resonates with you, I know that this was huge for me. I'd go through phases of being fine, and then all of a sudden this huge flare up and just not even being able to understand where it had come from. And that, I think, was the thing that frustrated me the most. Especially when they come when you least expect them or want them, which for me was usually if I was going out anywhere, I would just have a big flare up. So also if you find yourself avoiding eating out like I did, let me know in the chat if that's been an issue for you, because it was a huge issue for me. And like I say, it was something that was really important to me. And it's about finding out what is important to you and where you want your life to be in order to make the changes that you need to make to move yourself forward. So now we're going to come on to our Wellbeing Wheel. So has anybody give me a thumbs up? There's like a reaction icon that you can use if anybody has ever filled one of these ones in before. This can be so insightful in terms of where we need to focus our attention in order to get ourselves to where we want to be, because we want to have a healthy, happy, balanced life. And if we're experiencing gut issues and we want to get over them, then we need to be pretty much scoring pretty high in most of these areas. Now, something that was brought to my attention recently is I completed one of these actually through a business mentoring program. And it was put to me that you don't need to have high scores in all of these areas. If, for example, you're focusing on, like I am, growing my business, and your environment, which might be my home, isn't as clean maybe as I want it to be, being able to just let certain things go. Maybe I'm not seeing my friends and family quite as much as I would like to, but I know that it's just a temporary thing. Whereas when we're looking at it from a health and wellness perspective, we really want to be looking at, well, which of these areas are a concern to us, that we're not happy, we're not satisfied with, that would make a big difference if this were changed, if it was improved. So for example, for me, when I was really quite poorly, my job was a huge, biggest impact on my health. My relationship also at one point became a massive impact on my health. So it's these things where we have to make those often painful decisions to walk away or to make specific changes or to open up about things and start communicating to make things better. So what I want you to do now is, if you've got your Wellbeing Freedom Wheel printed out, is to just give a score in each of these areas of your life from 1 to 10, where you feel you are in regards to all these different areas. And I'm going to do this one with you at the same time, because it's been a little while since I've actually done one of these. So try not to overthink, just pop a number in the box in terms of how you are feeling kind of right now, because this can change on, a weekly, monthly basis, sometimes even a daily basis. So how happy are you, or how satisfied are you within each of these areas? And I'm guessing when we come maybe to the fun and recreation, seeing as we're all in lockdown, that one's not going to get the best score it could do. But hopefully things like nutritional health might score highly. And if they don't, then, maybe that is something that wants to be a focus for you. And lifestyle and pace can be another one, but a key one for a lot of people is the life purpose. Having that life purpose is so important to moving us forward. So hopefully you've all had chance to fill that in. I'll just give you a little bit more time if you haven't. And you can keep hold of this. I've just got a little folder with all the different worksheets in. You can print off more and see how you are as you work through this week, see where you are at the end of the week, rescore. So we're going to move now on to these 6 key tips for building this really robust digestive system. So the first one is all about breath work. And the reason why breath work is so important is because in the 21st century, we are pretty much stuck in our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight. We want to be in rest and digest. And unfortunately, we have not evolved since the day when we would have to run away from the saber-toothed tiger to get away from danger, which would obviously put us into our fight and flight. But then as soon as we were out of danger, we would drop back down into rest and digest. Now, 21st century living, with so much going on, well, you know, working, we're maybe, you know, trying to keep run a household, we've got children perhaps, you know, all these things, and can cause a lot of stress because there's so much to do all the time. And we can find ourselves just feeling like overwhelmed with being so busy. So one of the things that can be really helpful is when you're about to eat, actually doing some breath work. So breathing in for 3 and out for 6. As we breathe out, it's the exhalation that helps us really switch on and engage with our rest and digest. So I'd really encourage you to do this, and you can do this really discreetly. You don't have to be like taking huge breaths. No one need know that you're doing it. But rather than just grabbing your food and starting to eat it straight away, whereby we haven't given the system any opportunity to calm down if we are stressed, or the opportunity to release the stomach acid and the enzymes needed to break down the food. So just getting in a habit of just sitting, and before you start to eat, actually just doing some breath work. And if breathing in for 3 and out for 6 feels too much, because I know there are some people who really struggle with breathing, then try breathing in for 2 and out for 4. Whatever you can do to really help to switch yourself into more of a calm, relaxed state. It might even be that you want to play some music, some calming music, just to help to get you into that different mindset so that you can digest your food more easily. And so moving on from the breath work, we come to chewing. So how many people, again, if you want to drop it into the chat box, I know I was terrible for this. I will hold my hands up. I used to literally inhale my food and then wonder now back then why I was so bloated. And I can tell you this made such a big impact on my bloating when I finally got my head around taking my time and chewing my food thoroughly. Now, I actually engaged in this exercise whilst on holiday in Portugal. Many years ago. I committed myself to 2 weeks whilst we were away. Every single morsel that passed my lips was going to be chewed for a minimum of 20 chews. I was going to check before I swallowed that it was all mushed up like paste, no bits. And that's what I did. And then after 2 weeks, I was in a habit of just taking my time when I eat. And now there's just no way I would ever go back to eating how I used to eat. Now, obviously being on holiday was easier for me because I was away from all those distractions. So that's another reason why this Laying the Foundation tracker could be really beneficial for you, just to keep with you so that you can go, right, okay, I am going to chew my food. It's the tracker's there, it's in front of me. I want to have a tick in that box. So try it and see how you find it. We want to be aiming for 30, but I'm kind of like thinking if you're maybe chewing 2 or 3 times, it might be a bit of a stretch. So, you know, maybe go for 10 and then 20 and then 30. Obviously, if you're having a bowl of porridge, it doesn't need chewing that much. But if you're having a piece of steak, it might be way more than 30. You might even be finding it's more like 50. And just don't put too much in your mouth. And that will give you more opportunity to effectively chew the food up into the small amounts that you need to, rather than possibly swallowing some food that you don't need to. I think, oh, here we go. So yeah, so Gail saying chewing needs to be worked on as often. I look at my plate and wonder what has happened. to the food. That is so true, Gail. And I used to be like that. And I think at the time as well, my partner ate really, really quickly. And it was almost like it was a race. So he was going to finish first. So yeah, you do need to be aware when you're sitting down, you know, where has that food gone? Be mindful. Okay, so, and this basically is really going to help you improve your digestion. And then moving on to mindful eating. So how many of you actually sit at a table? I know I didn't used to. So actually sitting at a table away from distractions, this was huge for me because I always had my phone with me. And I would just be grabbing it. I would grab my phone and I would be reading whatever was on there. I never got out of sympathetic mode. So I would say, this is what I do now, is I leave my phone in another room. I get away from distractions. I sit at the table. Again, you can put music on, you know, anything that you can do that's going to get you into more of a mindful state. You want to be savoring your food. So we want to engage, you know, it's an art, you know, eating is an art, or digesting, should I say, is an art, and that we want to really try and find the tools that we need in order to be able to move forward. So all these are in the ebook that hopefully you've all downloaded as well. So if anybody hasn't downloaded the ebook, let me know. If you've struggled to find it, I can always send a PDF out. So you will have all this information that you can refer back to as well. And obviously I will send the recording out as well of this. And then overeating. Overeating is so detrimental to gut health and to health in general. And I know from a lot of clients that I've worked with who are maybe just, you know, leaving the house so quickly in the morning, don't have time for breakfast, then get distracted during the day, don't end up having lunch, get home absolutely beside themselves with hunger, and then just, you know, ramming food into their mouth like there's no tomorrow. This is what can cause so many issues and damages the gut. So my recommendation here would be, you know, sometimes that happens, but what I would say is either have some freshly made soups batch cooked, or have some chilled soups available and ready, so that when you get in and you're putting your tea on, you could have a bowl of soup, which will just take the edge off, and then try your best not to overpile food onto your plate. Maybe use a smaller plate, because our digestion slows in the evening. So we don't want to be overwhelming our digestive system when enzymes aren't as strong as what they are. So by a rule, it's supposed to be you eat like a king at breakfast. So that's when you have the most food, because that's when your enzymes are high. And then you have a small meal, so eat like a pauper, I think is the saying, in the evening. But of course, in the West, you know, we're so used to having, you know, a big dinner and maybe just some toast or a piece of fruit or some cereal in the morning. So it's just either switching things around or being more mindful in terms of what you can do to make sure that you don't overeat. Okay, and then drinks as well. So there is a rule of thumb that drinking too much around mealtime can actually dilute the digestive enzymes. So we know that drinking half an hour before food actually helps to stimulate them. So that's a good thing to do, to have a drink, maybe some herbal tea or some water before your meal, so half an hour before, and then ideally it's a couple of hours after, because it takes a couple of hours to digest. So we don't want to be having huge amounts to drink. I'm not saying don't drink anything at all, like having sips of drinks is fine, but I would just say don't have any huge drinks or any, you know, big amount of volume wise until a couple of hours, if you can, after your meal, and just see whether or not that works for you. And then adding citrus to meals. So especially if stomach acid is low, then adding citrus to meals can be really helpful in terms of stimulating the digestive process and helping you to digest your food. So stomach acid does lower as we get older. So especially when we're coming into our 60s, stomach acid does drop. So this can be a really good tip. And if you don't want to add the citrus to your meal, then you could just add it to a little bit of warm water, you know, a couple of squeezes of a lemon, or have some apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar with the mother is great, because not only does it help to stimulate your stomach acid, it also has the enzymes in there to help you break down your food. So you just need to look for apple cider vinegar with the mother. And then that's the one where you get all your enzymes. So you can do this at the beginning of each meal. That will help to stimulate your digestion and help you to break down your food. So if you are feeling like you're at a loss and need some support in a well-structured program because you're experiencing digestive issues, then I want you to know that I do have a program, and I'm more than happy to discuss what's going wrong with you and how we could work together to help move you forward to where you want to be. Because I'm sure you would love to say, like I can, that I'm finally symptom free and can go about my day without worrying about what I eat. That was a massive thing for me because eating plagued my life. I love food, and having such a restrictive diet and not being able to go out to eat was something that caused me a lot of distress. So I would love for you to get your confidence back, to beat the bloat if you're experiencing bloating, to enjoy eating out, and to be pain and symptom free. So if you are suffering and you want to take control of your health and your gut health in particular, then don't forget you can book in for a free consultation. So you can head over to the website, which is transformyourgut.co.uk. But you will also receive a link in one of the emails. I can't remember exactly which email it is now in the sequence, where I've actually put the link there to book in for your free consultation if you want to discuss further how I could potentially help you achieve your perfect gut health. So we have a giveaway. So we are giving away a food diary review. So we're going to do a giveaway every single day. So the food diary review is going to be given away. So I will get in contact with whoever's going to win it from today. I will post that out and we'll get you booked in. So you will be receiving your food diary. So once you've completed your 7-day food diary, then we can book you in for your review and we can work through it together to see what improvements we could make and potentially what needs to change in order to help you progress and move forward with resolve of your symptoms.